Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
All right, Pete, welcome back. Saturday, Films and Stuff. What do we have on the agenda today? What's our topic du jour?
So, Ethan, today I thought we would take a quick detour from our regular programming just to do a preview on Disney Plus's latest Marvel show, She-Hulk.
All right, let's dive in.
We've seen the first episode. You have some thoughts. I have some thoughts. And maybe not just some thoughts on the show, but as to how they may influence the MCU
the universe.
overall. Yeah.
I mean, I think that you said it right. I mean, you and I are both very avid Marvel fans. So when She-Hulk was announced, of course, it captures our interest. So I was surprised a little bit because I was not as into comic books and the source material as you are. So were you surprised that there is a She-Hulk series? And did you have any expectations for this at all?
So I have stopped being surprised by the introduction of what I would consider C-tier characters. And this is, again, no disrespect to any of the actors or even the characters, but let's be very frank. When it comes to the Marvel Comics universe, the A tiers are the X-Men's, the Spider-Man.
Yeah.
The B tier are the Captain Americas, the Thors, and the Fantastic Fours kind of range. I know that they're very famous and popular now, but any diehard comic book fan from that era, we're talking the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, will remember and tell you that, look, Captain America, Iron Man, all these guys were just kind of like meh characters. They took a backseat. The real premier comics were the X-Men's, were the Spider-Mans.
Yeah.
It's because of the movies, and it's primarily because of Robert Downey Jr. and Jon Favreau that the Avengers and the Iron Man comic series and the movie series has really elevated it to the A tier. All the other characters, we're talking She-Hulk, we're talking a little bit of Ant-Man, we're talking about Namor, all these guys have kind of become C tier or D tier in that regard. It's not a surprise to me after they made Ant-Man so successful and kind of elevated him in terms of importance that they are now going to the C tier and D tier characters. And it gives Marvel two opportunities. One, it allows them to revitalize a character that no one's ever heard of. And B, it also affords them the opportunity to say, hey, look, you're not a Spider-Man. I'm not going to pay you Spider-Man rates.
Yeah.
Right? As a pure business decision, Tatiana Maslany, you're a very good actor, but you're also going to be She-Hulk, and I know you have no power to come to me and say I want $10 million for the next She-Hulk movie, when Robert Downey Jr. can get $10 million, $50 million, whatever it is. Who the hell is She-Hulk in comparison to Iron Man?
Yeah, that's well said. I mean, my original reaction to the announcement was a little bit of confusion. I mean, again, like I said, I just didn't really know who She-Hulk was.
Yeah.
But I have to say, there's something that's a little bit disappointing to me as the MCU expands kind of out of control. And that is, I love Hulk. I mean, Hulk is such a great, beloved character. But I feel like the affection for Hulk is based on the mysteriousness, and the fact that you want more of him. And now that we get it crammed down our throat, it's kind of like having ice cream every day. It's just not special after a while, So the fact that there's so much Hulk now, to me, it takes a little bit of the shine off the character. It takes a little bit of the mystery off the character. And I like the idea of wanting more Hulk. And then when I get him, of course, it's meh, it's not so special. So that's kind of my first observation just in terms of, the setup for this. What did you think of episode 1? Like, did it fall flat for you? Did it meet your expectation? Is this just like a throwaway series that we shouldn't really pay a lot of attention to? What's your feeling?
To your point, I get exactly what you're saying about the Hulk. I think they introduced Bruce Banner into this show primarily because, like you, I would say most of the MCU audience is not familiar with the character of the She-Hulk.
Yeah.
And so I would not be surprised the reason they have Bruce Banner in there in the first episode is really to serve as an anchor, as kind of like a connecting point. I don't expect to see more Mark Ruffalo in any of the series going forward, except maybe in the finale. And even then, that's a big maybe. I just don't see it only because it's, Marvel has also, by the way, like Mark Ruffalo's not going to be cheap to have for 8 episodes onto a TV series.
I mean, did you like the way that this this is a different series, right? These are not hour-long episodes or like full hour-long episodes. It's not a feature film. So I understand that they've got to like move the pace along a little bit. But I guess episode 1, the premiere, fell flat for me in 2 areas. The first is, let's call it infection, happened way too fast.
Right.
Way too fast. Like, I think I actually stopped it. And I was at like 12 minutes. And 12 minutes includes all the, the Marvel banner and
The
music at the
logos,
beginning,
the fluff.
the intro music, the screen credits. I was at like 12 minutes. And I'd already seen an alien spacecraft come out of nowhere, right? And 2 cousins, by the way, I mean, I've got cousins. Rarely am I hanging out with my cousins and driving somewhere with them. And then I see this dramatic car accident. Okay, I understand. And then somehow Mark Ruffalo's few drops of blood just so happen to fall directly into an open wound. And that's all it took to create another Hulk. I mean, has Bruce Banner never cut himself before? Does this happen with other fluids? Like, the whole thing, I was like, whoa, that's all it took? Like, accidentally a drop of blood fell into one of her open wounds and that's it? I was hoping for something like he's got a younger sister and she's dying of kidney failure. And he's like, hey, I've got to give her a kidney. Not sure what the impact is going to be, but I can't see my sister die. I thought it was going to be something more dramatic than a few drops of blood just kind of fall out. That's it?
Yeah. I know what you're saying. So look, there are 2 camps.
That's the storyline.
There are 2 trains of thought with this. I think, a lot of people don't like to see origin stories, and a lot of people like to see proper origin stories. And I think this one is just saying, listen, we're now 30 movies into the MCU. We're another 10 TV shows into the MCU. Forget about the origin story as we traditionally know it. We've already established that there's a universe where superpowered people exist. Let's kind of breeze through the origin story and thank heavens they did the same thing in Spider-Man, in the MCU Spider-Man. We don't really see an origin story to how he gets his powers. We get to see an origin story as to Spider-Man as a character, but not Spider-Man as a superpowered individual. Yeah. And that for me, I'm okay with. I can kind of brush that aside. In fact, I would rather have them.
Then you're right. If you're not going to have a good origin though, skip the origin and leave that kind of as a mystery. I'm okay with that at least. But please don't have an alien spaceship appear out of nowhere that causes a car to swerve off the road and then 2 drops of blood splatter into a wound when they're scrambling out of the car. Give me something better.
Yeah, it's a little abrupt. So first things first, the alien spaceship, I think, is going to be the Chekhov spaceship. I think that's going to lead to what's going to be the big bad in episode 8 or whatever. Bruce Banner actually makes a point about it. He's like, yeah, I got to see what that was about. Like, he even specifically mentions it. So I have a sneaking suspicion that that's going to lead to something, right? It's going to lead to some kind of inciting incident. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that, that's also kind of comic book accurate in terms of how she gets her powers, although abridged. I believe, like in the comics, and don't hold me to this, I haven't read the She-Hulk comics, but if I remember correctly, she gets her powers because she was in a car accident, and he was the only one who could give her his
thought it
blood
was
in a blood transfusion.
Yes, a blood transfusion. And that's
Right.
a little bit better for me,
I accept what you're saying, and I understand. It seems a bit abrupt.
I mean, because remember, they go from driving. Again, for me, the origin is the most important part. The origin is how you get excited about the characters, right? We don't even get to know the characters. All we see is that they're in a very surprising car accident. They both scramble out of the car. 2 drops of blood fall into her forearm. Then she runs through the forest. She goes to a bar. She gets a phone, right? And then she's at his hideout in Mexico. Lot of fast forwarding here, right? Either give me a proper origin or fast forward and we see them first thing in Mexico and she's like, hey, where am I? He goes, look, we were driving. Do you remember we were driving to your parents' house and we got in an accident and this is what I had to do? Like, then summarize it. But for me, it's like, okay, what? So he was in a car accident. Where did he get a new car? Right? This is why we have a podcast, because we talk about stuff like this. So he's in a car accident. She runs off through the forest. What does he do? He gets another car. She calls his mobile phone. How does he get to this bar? And then, like, she doesn't remember anything. Is she drugged? Is she knocked out? Does he have a private plane to get to Mexico? Like, you just don't take, like, an unconscious woman to Mexico. Cousin, not cousin. How did all this happen? All this is glossed over. And to me, that's the frustrating part of this episode, which is if you're going to give me an origin, give me a proper thought through origin. Don't just give me this random 2 drops of blood and some smoke. And now we're in Mexico. Forget about what happened to get there.
Yeah, I get it. And I don't disagree with you. My feeling is this is not a new superpowered individual in the sense that we've already got a Hulk in the universe. Do I need to see another origin of a Hulk? Not particularly. So I like what they did, which was, and I'm not saying they executed this well, but conceptually, I like what they did, which is, okay, we start the episode, we do a 30-minute long flashback, which serves as the origin. We don't know how long that is, but instead of seeing the entire origin, we see, 30 minutes of origin, and then we get back to this present day where she's back to being a lawyer and She-Hulk at the same time. That, again, conceptually, I'm fine with, because frankly speaking, either, like you rightly said, either do a proper origin or skip it. They kind of tried to do a hybrid, and again, in terms of execution, I think they kind of flubbed it, but that's fine. So that's one element. I think what's maybe going to be more of a problem going forward, and I don't know if it is, and I hope that it's not, is the tone of the show.
Yeah, let's talk about
this
that.
This is not a drama. This looks like it's going to be almost like a sitcom. They've got a very strong comedic element going into this. And let's be clear, I think one of the reasons the MCU has been very successful is that in these very serious superhero action movies, they have been very liberal and very good about sprinkling in moments of levity and humor. Think of your favorite MCU movies, no matter how serious it is, there are moments where you see them call themselves out and laugh. My favorite MCU movie is probably The Winter Soldier, and there were definitely moments in there which you're just like, okay, it's kind of funny. I like that. Ragnarok, one of the better films in the MCU overall, I think, Thor 3, that was littered and sprinkled with good moments which made you laugh out loud. And that's fine. This show so far, at least in episode 1, seems to be going slightly Deadpool, but not very Deadpool, which is to say, yes, she's going to break the fourth wall. And yes, there are going to definitely be moments that look like they're going to be funny. Are they though? I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure to see, if this show is going to come off as a pure sitcom or not.
Yeah, I mean, I guess levity, of course, I want to see, but I felt like there was some kind of silly stuff here. And again, Hulk has a legacy. Hulk has not been funny. He was funny in Ragnarok unintentionally, right? He was funny by, I remember this when they were walking kind of like in the streets and Hulk said, "Hey, I don't want to ever see another Hulk," right? And then he turns a corner and there's like all these people wearing like Hulk masks and costumes, right? That's funny because it's like the juxtaposition for what he says and what he sees, right? But here I just felt like this was so slapstick and it wasn't giving even like the Hulk the proper respect he deserved. Like, I don't like seeing the Hulk physically fighting not only with a woman, but with his cousin. They're throwing each other around. They're slapping each other. Like, this is not cool to me. It doesn't really make sense either. Like, two cousins, they just survived a very serious car accident. Like, this just doesn't seem realistic in terms of how they would be treating each other, right? I understand the conflict. She wants to get back to her life. He's saying, look, you're different now. You've got to learn to live with this. That's a legitimate conflict. But the way that they did it with just kind of like this silly montage, who can throw stone the farthest, who can balance the best, oh, now I'm going to pick you up and slam you to the ground. You're going to slam me. And like, I just felt like that whole thing was all wrong, and it really diminished Ruffalo and Banner and the Hulk. And I don't get anything positive from She-Hulk in this. I find her to be maybe ignorant. I find her to be like maybe not serious. Like, she doesn't understand the levity of her powers. The whole tone I felt was very, very off.
Yeah,
I don't think you're as critical as I am about it, but I'm really disappointed with what I saw.
But the reality is, the more I think about it, the more I should be. I don't want to fall into this fanboyism, which I have definitely, people can accuse me of that very fairly, by the way. I think in the past, I have gone out of my way to do these mental gymnastics to justify why certain things are okay, whether that's in the Star Wars universe or in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I don't want to be one of those, when we think about it in the real world, we always call people out on being like Apple fanboys, right? Like, they release the same product every year and people flock like sheep to buy into that product. Frankly speaking, the MCU is getting to the point where that is no different, where they're releasing products, which in this case are TV shows or movies, which may not necessarily stand up to the quality that they once exhibited and, the uniqueness they once had, and they're not innovating as much as they should. And that's kind of leading people, that's kind of making me justify, oh, this is great and this is why it should be good. Whereas I think what you're saying is absolutely right, which is to say, listen, we should be more critical of Star Wars. We should be more critical of the MCU, not because we're not fans of it, but exact opposite. It's because we're fans of the MCU. We should expect more from our, content.
I mean, I would say if they would have had me in a focus group and they'd say, look, we're thinking of having a She-Hulk, her cousin gives her, or brother, right? Which I think is better if it's a brother, gives her a kidney transplant or a blood transfusion. And she has a lot of the same powers. She's not equal to him. I know that's going to create an equality problem. But like, for me, like, the Hulk is one of a kind. And it just boggles my mind after years of it pounded into my head that there's only one Hulk in the universe. He's universally strong and ferocious and something, right? Oh, but if he would accidentally cut his finger, if there's a paper cut, and that one drop of blood gets into someone else, then there's another Hulk. Nonsense. This is not COVID. This is Hulk, right? So for me, it would be like, let's say he gave a blood transfusion to his sister or his cousin, and she has a lot of the same qualities as him. That would explain why she can control it better, that she doesn't have an alter ego, but she doesn't turn into this 6'8", 300-pound muscle that can throw alien ships all over the place. She turns into essentially a very, very superhuman. And now she's stuck in this world where she's like, hey, I'm not an Avenger. I'm not a Hulk. I can't save the universe. But definitely, if I get shot with a bullet or stabbed, I will live. Definitely, I can beat anybody in a fist fight. Am I a superhero? No, I'm a serious professional. I really take my job seriously. She's like, oh, but wait a second. I can be a great criminal defense lawyer because now I can also kind of be this vigilante by night, and I can get the justice outside the courtroom that I seek for my clients. For me, that's a better premise. I can get really behind that character, and I can get behind She-Hulk, who's like, hey, I'm doing the best with what I've got. I'm not an Avenger. I'm not as strong as a Hulk, but I'm definitely not a normal human anymore. It flows with me. But just to say two drops of blood.
See that though. I think you're going to see a lot more of what you just said.
Yeah.
I think, forget about the origin. I think what you're going to see is a lot more of that, because what we're going to see is she's going to be the lawyer to superheroes and supervillains.
Hopefully only superheroes. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
well, you'll find out. I think it was released in the trailer that she ends up defending Blonsky, the Abomination who tried to kill Bruce Banner. In any case, I think we're going to see a lot more of that, of what you're saying. And also, what you're describing in terms of being the vigilante trying to get justice, that's Daredevil. He is the lawyer by day, superhero at night, who's trying to clean that up. Which is why we're also going to see Daredevil. If you saw in the trailers, you see a teaser for Daredevil in this show.
Oh, really?
So I think that's going to be interesting, where you get to see a superhero team up with She-Hulk and Daredevil. Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. We'll find out. Or maybe they're opposing counsels. That might be interesting. I don't know. So I think these things that you're worried about, not unfounded. I think they're very, very founded. But I also think that it's one of those things where we either have to give it one or two more episodes to determine, or we can call it now. I would say that right now, I think at best this is going to be a mooch.
Yeah.
But if you're going to force me to say, should I watch this? Yes or no? I've got 15 other shows to watch. I would probably say this is a skip at this very moment.
I mean, it should not be, though. I mean, this intellectual property, right? I mean, I feel like there's something wrong. If you've got the Hulk intellectual property, like, you're doing something.
But it's not the Hulk. I think that's the other thing is you have to remember, this isn't the Hulk. It's a different character. It's She-Hulk. It's not, as much as you want to conflate this with Bruce Banner's story, it's not. This is a completely different thing. She does her own thing. She's got her own set of comics. She's got her own set of villains and her own set of stories.
I mean, that's right. But what I'm saying is that you've got the word Hulk. You've got Marvel. You've got already, just by the name She-Hulk, you've already got very good intellectual property. You've got something, right? If this was just called She-Lawyer, like, it doesn't trend at all, right? The fact just She-Hulk without anything more gives it something. So the fact that this, I think after one episode, that it's not a must-see means that it's not a success. I mean, I don't want to be like so dramatic and say it's a failure, but you're already starting with something that's an all-time, globally known, recognized, well-liked name and character, right? You're just adding she. If you automatically have a positive, reference to it. So if you put out the first episode and people aren't absolutely thrilled or excited to see the second one, doesn't that mean that you've done something wrong?
Yeah, my only counter to that point in their defense could also be that I may not be the target demographic. So, they made a couple of references and they made a couple of points to talk about, how that's the constant state of fear and worry is like how women always are. Like, that's in a man's world, that's the constant state of being for women. And, they made a couple of points, which is like, well, you won't understand how it's, it was hard for you to control your rage because you're a man, but as a woman, we've had to do it. Otherwise, we're considered aggressive, blah, blah, blah. I think that could also just be them being like, hey, look, maybe this isn't necessarily aimed at me. Similar to how Ms. Marvel, great character, great show, but may not have the same kind of impact on me because I'm not a teenage Pakistani-American girl living in the East Coast of the U.S. This could fall into that same, not trap, but into that same genre, which is to say, hey, I may not be 100% of the target. Maybe the target is younger professional women and the struggles that they experience in the workplace, right? Because we see the scene at the show opens with her being mansplained to and kind of being dressed down by the only other male lawyer in the team, right?
I mean, look, I have a sister who's a lawyer, and I have obviously a great many friends and girlfriends who are female professionals. I'm not at all unsympathetic to this, and I absolutely acknowledge that it exists. However, from a commercial standpoint, I don't think that's a viable strategy. I mean, unless you're saying, hey, we're only going to, yes, my sister is a lawyer, right? For sure, the last thing on her agenda, right, is to watch a show about She-Hulk. She may do, but absolutely, I feel like this is not at all going to capture her. She doesn't have time for stuff like this. And I think it's very unlikely that if that's the audience that you're going for, you're actually undermining your own argument, because after showing how much women juggle, the last thing that they probably have time to do or want to do is watch a show about a woman who's being mansplained to and is trying to balance all these other complications in their life.
Yeah, or it could just be that the show is going to talk about how, women are being empowered or should be empowered. Look, I don't know. And this is totally out of my wheelhouse because I'm not a woman. I have not experienced any of these things for, good or bad. So I can't speak to that. I'm just, my hypothesis is maybe that's what they're trying to do. If they have an agenda at all, maybe they don't. Maybe they're just like, look, we're just trying to make a good show that's similar to the comics, because in the comics, she breaks the fourth wall. In the comics, she is a successful lawyer who represents superheroes. She works in this field, and, maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I'm just trying to guess as to why things are the way they are, and whether that's going to be successful or not, I don't know. If you have, gun to my head, do I want to continue watching this show outside of the scope of films and stuff as a podcast?
Yeah.
Probably not. Will I continue watching it? Of course I will.
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm not sure yet. I may give it another episode, but so far I have not fallen for the character, even though I should be loving this character, right? Everything about this show should scream that I would really like this character, but I thought that it was too silly and goofy, and the origin was just too berserk for me to really get into it. But I'm open to my mind being changed in the coming episode. But I have to say I'm not enthusiastic about seeing the next one. For example, we talked about House of Dragons is coming tomorrow. I will absolutely be refreshing my browser until that drops. I do not feel the same about She-Hulk.
I think, and maybe, to Marvel's maybe credit, maybe not to their credit, whatever the opposite is, to their debit. I think that's also the curse that you have when it comes to reaching to the bottom of the barrel in terms of your IP. Yeah. When you're trying to save all of your best shows for the movies, that's fine. But I would have much rather seen them do a Daredevil TV show now rather than in 3 years from now when we're going to get the next Daredevil show.
I agree with
or
you.
in 2 years from now, whenever it is. If you're going to talk about a superhero in the legal profession and the pitfalls to that, I think Daredevil fills a much, much, much better creative outlet, although maybe in terms of demographic it doesn't.
Yeah.
If Again, and that's assuming Disney has an agenda, which I sneakingly suspect they do.
I agree. Okay, Pete, I think we've exhausted She-Hulk. Stay tuned next week. I'm sure we'll have more. Everyone, thank you for joining us today.
If you've got some feelings on She-Hulk, reach out to us, aloha@filmsandstuffpodcast.com, or tweet at us at F&S Podcast.
Aloha means hello. We'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.